Welcome back to your channel Vinee's Educate. All summer in a day second part and the last part ആയിട്ടാണ് വന്നിരിക്കുന്നത്. So let us start without wasting any time. അപ്പം നമ്മൾ റെയിൻ സ്റ്റോപ്പ് ആവാൻ പോകുന്നു, സൺ വരാൻ പോകുന്നു എന്നുള്ളൊരു പോയിന്റിലാണ് കഴിഞ്ഞ വീഡിയോ നിർത്തിയിരിക്കുന്നത്. സോ അങ്ങനെ പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ തന്നെ റെയിൻ സ്റ്റോപ്പായി. ഈ റെയിൻ സ്റ്റോപ്പ് ആകുമ്പോൾ അവിടെ പെട്ടെന്നുണ്ടാവുന്ന ചേഞ്ചസ് എന്തൊക്കെയാണെന്നാണ് ഇതിനകത്ത് എഴുതിയിരിക്കുന്നത്. അതിൻ്റെ ഡിസ്ക്രിപ്ഷൻ തന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഒരു സിനിമ, അതായത് കംപ്ലീറ്റ് ടൊർണാഡോ, ഹറിക്കെയിൻ, വോൾക്കാനിക് ഇറപ്ഷൻ എല്ലാം നടന്നുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്ന ഒരു സിനിമ കണ്ടുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുമ്പോൾ പെട്ടെന്ന് ആ സിനിമയുടെ സൗണ്ട് ഡിവൈസിന് ഒരു കുഴപ്പം പറ്റിയിട്ട് ഒരു ഇടയ്ക്കിടയ്ക്ക് ഇങ്ങനെ സൗണ്ട് വരും, പിന്നെ അത് കുറഞ്ഞ് ഒട്ടും സൗണ്ട് ഇല്ലാണ്ടാവുന്ന ആ ഒരു രീതിയിലാണ് ഇവിടെ മഴ നിന്നിട്ട് പെട്ടെന്ന് സൗണ്ട് ഒന്നുമില്ലാതെ സൈലൻസിലോട്ട് വീഴുന്ന ആ ഒരു വീനസിൻ്റെ അറ്റ്മോസ്ഫിയറിനെ ഡിസ്ക്രൈബ് ചെയ്തേക്കുന്നത്. സോ ഓൾ ഓഫ് എ സഡൻ ആ സിനിമയിൽ ഉണ്ടായിക്കൊണ്ടിരുന്ന ബ്ലാസ്റ്റും റിപ്പർക്കഷൻസും തണ്ടേഴ്സും എല്ലാം പെട്ടെന്ന് അങ്ങോട്ട് നിന്ന പോലത്തെ ഒരു ഫീലിംഗ്, അതായത് വലിയൊരു സൈലൻസ്. അത്രയും നേരം ചെറുപറ മഴ പെയ്തുകൊണ്ടിരുന്നു, ഫുൾ ടൈം മഴയുടെ ബഹളം, തണ്ടർ, ലൈറ്റ്നിങ്, പിന്നെ ടൊർണാഡോ, ഹറിക്കെയിൻ, സ്റ്റോംസ്, എല്ലാത്തിനെയും ബഹളം എല്ലാം കൂടി പെട്ടെന്ന് അങ്ങ് നിന്നപ്പോൾ ഒരു സൈലൻസ്. ദ വേൾഡ് ഗ്രൗണ്ട് ടു എ സ്റ്റാൻഡ് സ്റ്റിൽ. The silence was so immense and extremely difficult to bear for the children. For the first time, they just closed their ears because their ears were used to continuous sound, and all of a sudden the silence actually started creating a trouble to them because they were not used to it, right? And they just put their hands on their ears, so because they just cannot bear that silence. And then slowly the teachers slid back the main door and they realized that the silence was because the rain had actually stopped and the sun had come out. It was the color of flaming bronze and it was very large, and the sky around it was a blazing blue tile color, and the jungle burned with sunlight as the children, released from their spell, rushed out yelling into the summertime. So the excitement, the color of flaming bronze was very large. The sun's color was immense. The sky was like blue in color, as if blue tiles were spread, and the jungle was shining with sunlight, and the children were like animals who were let out to the forest from a zoo, and the teacher is alerting them, now don't go too far because you have only 1 hour to go. So in this particular lesson, at some places it is said that the sun comes for 2 hours, but here the teacher is saying that the time is just 1 hour. So there is a little bit confusion there. Let's go with 2 hours. Now the children are being warned by the teacher that you should not go beyond a limit because you need to come back before the heavy rainfall starts. But before they could listen to what their teacher was saying, they were all running around, they were looking at the sky, they were looking at the sun, and they kept on looking at the sun till the eyes were filled with water. And they were enjoying the warmth on their cheeks, they were enjoying, they had taken off their jackets and they were letting the sun burn their body, and they felt that the actual warmth from the sun was much better than the sun lamps that they used to have in their underground tunnels. And they stopped running and stood in a great jungle that covered Venus, that grew and never stopped growing tumultuously, even as you watched it. It was a nest of octopuses clustering up great arms of flesh like weed, wavering, flowering in this brief spring. It was the color of rubber and ash, this jungle, from the many years without sun. It was the color of stones and white cheeses and ink. So they were watching the continuously growing forest. And what is the effect of sun on the plants, on the trees? They were also getting the sunlight after 7 years, so there was a huge change taking place in them also. But the entire forest was color of rubber and ash because there was no photosynthesis taking place. Right? Now the children lay out laughing on jungle mattress and heard its sigh and squeak under them, resilient and alive. So as they were running around, the ground was still filled with water. So when you walk on a wet surface, it creates a sound, squeaky sound that was being heard there, and the plants which were under their feet, they were resilient. Once they step on them, they go down and then they come back. So that is what it is meant by resilient and alive. And the children, they ran among the trees, they slipped, they fell, they pushed each other, they played hide and seek and tag, and all of them almost squinted at the sun until the tears came down their face, and their hands put up that yellowness that was amazing. The yellow color of the sun rays were falling on them. They were breathing the fresh air. They listened to the silence, which was suspended, and them in a blessed sea of no sound and no motion. Then they looked at everything and savored everything. That means they were enjoying everything with great pleasure. Then, wildly, like animals who have escaped from the zoo, they were just running around in the forest, going circle and circle, shouting and playing and yelling at each other out of happiness. And then, in the midst of their running, one of the girls wailed. One girl started crying. Why? Because there was a huge drop of water in her hand. That means the children had been enjoying the entire, forest for the last 1 hour or 2 hours, and the time had come that the sun had to go down and the children had to go inside the tunnel. So the girl standing in the open held her hand, and oh, look, she said, trembling. They came slowly to look at her opened palm, and in the center of it they found a huge cupped single drop of raindrop, and the girl started to cry. Why? Because she knew that now they have to go underground for 7 long years, and they will have to wait to see the same thing and experience the same thing after for 7 years. So they glanced at the sky. The sun was going behind the clouds. A few cold drops fell on their noses and their cheeks and their mouths. The sun faded behind a stir of mist. The wind blew cold around them. They turned and they started to walk toward the underground house. Now see, in the beginning, when the sun had come, they were running to the forest. Now they all are so depressed that they are walking with heavy legs, and their hands were on their side, their smiles had vanished. A boom of thunder came along, and the leaves before a new hurricane, they tumbled upon each other because they suddenly got scared. After the silence, a huge thunder came, so they got scared, and they clung to each other. Lightning struck 10 miles away, 5 miles away, a mile away, a half mile. The sky darkened into midnight in a flash. So this is a paragraph which you should write if the description is asked once the sun was going to disappear or had disappeared. What immediate change did happen there? And then they stood in the doorway of the underground for a moment until it was raining hard. They stood there, and finally, when it started raining heavily, they just closed the door, and they heard the gigantic sound of the rain falling in tons and the avalanches everywhere and forever. Will it be 7 more years? Yes, 7. Then one of them gave a little cry. Margot, what? She's still in the closet where we locked her, Margot. That is the time when they realized that they all had actually enjoyed the sun, but Margot മാത്രം സണ്ണിനെ കണ്ടില്ല. അവരെക്കാട്ടിലും കൂടുതൽ എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നു മാർഗോട്ടായിരുന്നു ആ സണ്ണിന് വേണ്ടി വെയിറ്റ് ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടിരുന്നത്. ഇനി അവർക്കത് ഭയങ്കര ഒരു കുറ്റബോധം പോലെ തോന്നിപ്പോയി. നമ്മൾ ഇത്രയും നേരം എൻജോയ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് നമ്മൾ മാർഗോട്ടിനെ പൂട്ടിയിട്ടേക്കുമായിരുന്നു. മാർഗോട്ട് പറഞ്ഞ ഓരോ കാര്യങ്ങളും ശരിയായിരുന്നു എന്നുള്ളത് അവർക്ക് അവരുടെ എക്സ്പീരിയൻസിലൂടെ മനസ്സിലായി. അപ്പോൾ അത്രയും നാളും അവർ മാർഗോട്ടിനെ ടോർച്ചർ ചെയ്തതും മാർഗോട്ടിനെ ബുള്ളി ചെയ്തതും ഒക്കെ തെറ്റായി പോയെന്നുള്ളൊരു ഫീലിംഗ് അവർക്കുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. They stood as if someone had driven them like so many stakes into the floor. They looked at each other and then looked away. They glanced out at the world that was raining now and raining steadily. They could not meet each other's glances. Their faces were solemn and pale. They looked at their hands and feet, their faces down. So they had realized that how much, how big mistake they had committed by not allowing Margot to enjoy the sun, right? And one of the girls again kept on saying Margot, and then they kept on whispering, and then they slowly started walking towards the area where they had locked Margot. But they were so ashamed of their action, they were so regretful of what they have done, that they were not able to look at each other, and they were walking with heavy steps and heads down. And then slowly one of them went and opened the door where Margot was closed. The door unlocked, and slowly Margot came out. But the children were filled with remorse, but still they can at least be relieved by the thought that Margot finally will go forever to live on earth after 1 year, right? But at that moment what they did was wrong. Margot also should have been with them in order to enjoy the sun that had actually taken the life from her. She was like a lifeless girl without the presence of sun. So she was the one who was actually dying to see the sun. But the act done by these children did not allow her to enjoy that sun for 2 hours or 1 hour, and that had filled the children with remorse. So it was the end of the story. The children are filled with remorse. They are regretful of what they have done. They are ashamed, and they knew that whatever Margot had been saying about sun was absolutely correct. Okay, so I hope this is clear to you. Best for your examination, read the lessons very carefully. Each and every line has to be read, because you never know what kind of questions would come for your MCQ. So all the best, do well. When you get your results, do inform me how many marks you got for your English, literature and language. Okay, bye bye.